You are listening to the Overcome Pornography for Good podcast, episode 213, the most important shift you can make when quitting porn. Welcome to the Overcome Pornography for Good podcast, where we take a research-based, trauma-informed, and results-focused approach to quitting porn. This approach has been revolutionary and changed thousands and thousands of lives. I'm your host, Sarah Brewer. Hey everyone, welcome to today's podcast episode. So glad you're here. It's been a minute since I've shouted out reviews. So those of you who have left reviews on my podcast, thank you so much. We have quite a few and really great ones. If you haven't yet, I would love if you left us a review. It helps people find us and it really helps people who need this understand if it's going to help them or not. So thank you so much, those of you who have. I want to shout out, this person said, this podcast and program have been an absolute blessing in my life, allowing me to find value in myself despite my actions against my own moral code. I've been working to overcome pornography for about 3 years now, and I've never seen a program that's so positive and uplifting. I see hope, I see my worth, and that I am worth loving. Oh, I love it. Thank you so much for sharing that. Yes. I love it. Congratulations. And again, thank you for sharing. And I'd love it, for those of you who haven't left a review, I'd love to hear and see your review as well. All right, you guys, let's hop into today's episode content. I want to talk about the biggest shift that you can make that will make the most difference for you when quitting porn. And what we're going to talk about is an energetic shift. So we're getting deeper. It's not just what am I doing differently? It's not what actions am I taking differently. It's not even what thoughts am I thinking differently. It's what is the energy that I am using when I'm quitting porn? What is the energy behind all of my actions, thoughts, words, efforts around quitting porn? What is that energy? And this is a conversation I had with a client recently on one of our big group coaching calls in the program. And he had gotten to a place where he had done a lot of the work and understood a lot of the concepts and was feeling stuck in, a place that he didn't want to be. And what we saw as we dug a little bit deeper is that the energy that he was operating out of was still so much fear and shame. And so he was doing the shame work, but underneath what was driving him to do that was still fear and shame. He was doing the buffering work, but what was driving all of that was still fear and shame. And so we talked about, okay, if we were to approach this, okay, if this is, a gift, if this moment is a gift and understanding where you're at, what are we learning? What is your body telling you? It's telling you, as much as you've tried to quit with underlying guilt and shame, and you've tried and you've done everything you could with underlying guilt and shame, it will not work. And instead, it's time to learn a new way to energetically operate around quitting porn that is not fear and shame and guilt. And so that's what I want to dive into today. And what does that look like and how do we make that shift? Let's start by understanding, what does it look like when your energy around quitting porn is fear and shame? What does that feel like and look like? And I would imagine a lot of you are familiar with that and understand what that would look like. I wish we were all on a big live call together and I could ask you that question. You could put your answers in, but today I'm just recording alone in my office. So let's see if this resonates. When energetically you are operating from fear and shame with pornography, it's going to look like a lot of hurried action. Hurried, intense action where you're very hypervigilant about everything you're doing and everything you're thinking. It's going to look like you're still trying to quit porn to feel okay about yourself. And so some of the beliefs behind it are, if I just quit porn, I will finally be worthy. I will finally be enough. I will be able to ask out that person I want to ask out. I will finally feel good. And even if those aren't the words that you're consciously saying in your mind, maybe it's a little subconscious. It's still what you're feeling. And the energy behind it is still, let's quit so I can feel good. Okay, can you feel that? Can you feel that subtle? It can be subtle sometimes that, let's just quit so I can feel good. I'm in the program so I can quit so that I can feel good. And it makes a lot of sense. I want to validate this because this has been so painful for so many people for so long. And, there's some truth that in the past, the pain has come from, or at least it's looked like it's come from the porn use when you were young and viewed for the first time and immediately felt guilt and shame and fear, right? It makes sense that your brain connects guilt and shame and fear to the looking at porn. But if we're still using that energy, the guilt, shame, fear energy to quit, we're going to eventually hit a roadblock. And we're always going to be in this push-pull kind of tug-of-war with the pornography. An example of this is, let's say you're trying to run a marathon and you're looking at what's the fuel behind you running a marathon. Are you running the marathon off of Fruit Loops and soda and sugar or really heavy stuff that's just kind of weighing you down? Or are you running the marathon after fueling yourself with healthy fats and complex carbohydrates? And, I don't even know all the good things, the good nutrition for running a marathon. So that's kind of what we're looking at here. It's a similar concept. What's the energy? What's the fuel that is driving our actions? If guilt, fear, and shame is that fuel, you're going to burn out really quickly, just like if you were running a marathon off of Fruit Loops, you would burn out pretty quickly. Nothing outside of you will change how you are energetically showing up. Let me say this again in a better way. In order to change what is outside of you for good, you have to first change energetically what is inside of you. And so many of us go about this the opposite way, where we think, if I just change something outside of me, I will feel better energetically. Instead of, if I change my energetic space, I will be able to change what's outside of me. And that's how you really, truly make long-lasting change. It's a similar concept, with the model. We're talking about the model here when I talk about thoughts, feelings, actions. Your feelings are driving your actions and your thoughts are driving your feelings. And so don't just focus on changing your actions. If you want to change long-lasting action, we really have to first focus on changing the thoughts and feelings that are driving that action. And so again, if we're subtly noticing that the energy behind us quitting porn is still fear, guilt, shame, we have to eventually learn to operate somewhere else, even if it's before, not even, especially if it's before we've actually quote unquote quit porn or our porn use is where we want it to be. And so instead, what if we can operate out of love? Our energy or our emotional state is more loving than it is guilt, fear, shame focused. And what does that look like? What is the difference in how you show up? And not just like what it looks like, but how it feels in your body. So take a minute with me and let's imagine what it feels like to quit porn with guilt, fear, and shame. That's going to be easy. You've been doing that for a long time. But what does that feel like? Now I want you to imagine that there's a little light switch. And this light switch is going to shift you into love. We're going to turn it on. Click. Now we're quitting porn out of love. How does that feel different? And this might be something you really get on this podcast episode. It might be something you need to go meditate on and really ask your soul and your body to show you what it feels like. Okay, so shifting into love. Click. Turning it into love. Can we feel how our body relaxes a little bit? Can we feel how it feels expansive and almost like our bodies open up a little bit? So when I say an energetic shift, we're going to talk about what it looks like differently, like what the actual actions look like, but it's also just this feeling, this energetic feeling shift. Okay, flipping the switch, and now we're going to practice quitting from love. So what that looks like is, first, it looks like compassion and forgiveness for your past. Even when your brain comes online and your wounds come online and say, but I shouldn't have done that, and I'm not worthy, and that was so dumb, you envelop it and you wrap it up in love, which is forgiveness. Forgiveness. Love also looks like tenderness and care. So when you are taking care of a baby, it is not neglect. And it's also not just letting the baby have anything that it wants. If a baby's reaching for a really sharp object, love says no. Love says put it back. And then if the baby starts to cry and is upset because it can't have that sharp object, you love it and you say, I love you, and we can't have that right now. And so that's also the energy of love that we're shifting into. And so if you have an urge to view porn and you're telling yourself no, it's not no because that's so bad and that's so gross and you're so gross and you're so bad, and don't do it because guilt and shame and fear. It's no, I love you, and no, I love you. And no matter what, we're going to be okay. No matter what, I'm going to be with you. And no, not right now. No, I love you. No. I'm going to relate this back to body stuff like working out and eating healthy. I like to use this to compare, but it's a similar shift when you go from like hating your body and restricting your body and saying, no, I can't have food because I don't want to be fat, or can't have sugar because that's gross and I'm going to be gross. And then if you shift out of that, it's really easy. And this isn't a problem. This is usually just a part of the step of healing from that. But sometimes you shift into, it's okay. You can have anything you want and I love you. You can eat anything you want and I love you. And that's a beautiful place to be. But like even a step further of that is, I want to take care of you, body. I love you and I'm going to take care of you. And so just like taking care of a baby, I make sure that you are fueled with enough food, but also food that helps your body feel good, because I love you and I want to take care of you. And again, so the energy has shifted out of working out to punish yourself and working out now because you love this body and want to take care of it. Can you feel the difference? That this is what we're shifting into. And a really big part of this is going to be that sexual shame healing too, because a lot of times the guilt and shame is masked. We don't see it for what it is. We think that pleasure in itself is bad, that sexual pleasure is bad and we are not worthy of it. And it's a dirty thing that is just like a necessary evil. And so healing that and re-looking at that and reframing that as instead pleasure is good. My body's capacity for pleasure is beautiful and my body is deserving of pleasure. And then shifting one step further into, I love you, body. I love you, sexual body. And I'm going to feed you and love you and take care of you in these ways that I believe is the most nurturing for you. And what that might look like is a little bit less porn. Okay, I hope I've painted a really good picture here for you for this number one big shift change that will really change everything for you, because you can come into the program and you learn all the tools and you're getting all the coaching and you're getting all the help. And even if you do everything right, but the energy behind it is still guilt and shame and fear, you're eventually going to hit kind of a roadblock to like what I experienced with my client in one of these coaching calls was, your body is screaming at you that you have to do this a new way. You have exhausted the resource of guilt, fear, and shame as the energy to do this with. And now we've come to a crossroads where you have to decide, I am changing my energy around this and I'm doing this out of love, which means I'm enough exactly how I am. I am worthy and I'm taking care of myself because I love this part of me. I'm taking care of my sexuality because I love it. All right, you guys, sending so much love to each of you today. Would love to have you come join the program. If you're not already in the program, let us come work with you and help you. And, the podcast and a lot of our free materials, we do as much as we can, which is learning, and giving you resources. But the container of the real deep transformation, that's the program. That's where we have the resources and the coaches, and you get the individual help to really make these deep inner changes. And so if you haven't, come and join us. Come and join us, especially if this is something you want to work through. Let's stop wasting time and money and resources just kind of throwing spaghetti at the wall. Come in and let's just, take care of it and get to work, and let us help you and support you and hold you through this process. You can join centerforovercoming.com/work-with-me. Hope you all have a great week, and we'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye.
I want to invite you to come and listen to my free class, How to Overcome Pornography for Good Without Using Willpower. We talk about how to stop giving into urges without pure willpower or relying on phone filters so that you can actually stop wanting pornography. We talk about how to stop giving up after a few weeks or months, and Spoiler alert, the answer isn't have more willpower. And then lastly, we talk about how to make a life without porn easily sustainable and permanent. If you're trying to quit porn, this class is a game changer. So you can go and sign up at sarahbrewer.com/masterclass, and it is totally free.